Always the quiet ones now. It's always those slates. Take a look at them and say, oh, you know what? This is one of those weekends I can maybe make some plans for my Saturday. Maybe I'll go out and have a little picnic. No. This is not one of those weekends. This is, in fact, I think, going to be one of the sneakiest college football slates we have of this entire season. Welcome into the Hard Count, the People's College Football Show. It is a Prediction Tuesday, October 1st now, 2024 pumpkin spice season. Very special day on this show now because someone who is really responsible for this whole show getting up and rolling, Nick Brake, turning a year older today. Not going to tell you his age. We'll leave that up to the imagination. But Nick Brake, happy birthday, brother. Glad to have you making this whole thing happen. It's a big day, biggest Tuesday of the week, actually, so we're going to make it a great one. As we do every single Tuesday on this show, The Hard Count, got predictions for you. We got predictions. We got Tennessee, Arkansas. That one now a little bit more intriguing than I think maybe it's being given credit for. Good test for Tennessee. Arkansas, one of the better two-loss teams in all of college football. We'll break that one down, give you a pick. Nebraska and Rutgers now. This is one where if Nebraska had beaten Illinois, woulda, shoulda, coulda, maybe this is College GameDay. I digress. We'll give you a pick there. Missouri and Texas A&M. That might be the game I'm looking forward to the most out of this entire slate because Missouri's a top 10 team. A&M, since that Notre Dame loss and since they've gone with Marcel Reed at quarterback due to Conor Wegman injury, they've been a new outfit. We'll break that one down. That one's in College Station. Nice little a noon special, if you will. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of the time slot, you got just this has just Sicko's Hour written all over it. 10:30 Eastern, College GameDay going to Cal Berkeley. Miami also going to Cal Berkeley. There's going to be a lot of fun now. A little ACC clash. Who would have thought two teams on opposite coasts of the same country having a conference game at 10:30 Eastern, and that's why we love college football. In addition to that, we'll have the Deep South's oldest rivalry with Auburn going to Georgia. Auburn now, a lot of people kind of writing off Hugh Freeze and the boys, and it makes sense to do that because of the way the Oklahoma game went, because of the Cal game. Georgia now trying to hit the reset button after Alabama. This game last year, I think it was a 2-touchdown spread favoring Georgia. It's more than that this year, spoiler alert. But we all just said, oh, you know what? Well, Georgia will be fine. They went into Jordan-Hare, and it was one of those games. Now you check it at halftime, you're like, hold on, what's the score? Peyton Thorne run for how many yards? What's going on? Hugh Freeze special was on the docket there. They almost got it done. And that's what I'm just saying now. The spread doesn't leave, a lot to really hope for if you're an Auburn fan with it being 24.5 points. But spreads are wrong all the time. So we'll give you our pick there, and we'll talk through how an Auburn upset would happen if that is going to be what the reality is. But we're glad to have you here, man. I understand now a lot of y'all have a lot going on. It's the fall. It is officially fall. If it wasn't before, it definitely is now as we're sitting here on October 1st. And you just have a lot on your plate, man. I get it. I mean, for a lot of y'all that are in school, I know exams are starting to ramp up. We appreciate the college audience dialed in. For a lot of y'all that are, doing the family life, I understand this part of the year it starts to get a little bit more intense with the holidays around the corner. Like a lot of y'all have a lot going on. So we appreciate y'all choosing now to spend your time devouring college football content with us. You got a lot of options, a lot of choices, so we're glad to have you here, man. If you haven't yet subscribed, now is the time. If you're new, it's college football every single day. It's college football all year round, and it is college football content by college football sickos for college football sickos. So subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, go ahead and subscribe to the feed there, whether you're listening via Spotify or Apple. No judgment. We're happy to have you on either platform. We appreciate you being dialed in. So let's do this. As we always do every Tuesday before our predictions, the hits and misses from last week. We'll keep this brief. Y'all, we missed on Georgia. And a big part of me picking Georgia to beat Alabama was like, hey, man, I think that Kentucky game, you got a bye week. Kirby Smart got a chance to lay into the boys a little bit there. Like, I think maybe we see Georgia show some sense of urgency. And it wasn't really a sense of urgency as much as like Georgia just looked overwhelmed by the Alabama game plan, potentially by the environment in Tuscaloosa. We got guys running fade routes when it's supposed to be a screen leading to a Carson Beck interception. Like they looked very out of sorts. Now they did gather themselves and looked like the Georgia team we thought they would look like, but more so in that second half, and it was just too little too late at the end. And ultimately Alabama made that play to regain the lead at the end of the game, and that was that. But I don't think we should write off Georgia just yet. And we'll have our soapbox moment on tomorrow's show talking about the 12-team playoff and that game and all that. But Georgia, we missed there. It's a miss on us. We got Crow on deck for next week for you. Got something cooked up there. We hit on Oklahoma now. And this is one, quite frankly, that we should not have hit on. Oklahoma should not have won that football game. And that's not saying anything negative about Oklahoma. They made the play to win the football game. But if you look at what Auburn did, man, Peyton Thorne threw for over 300 yards. If I'm an Auburn fan and you told me on Friday, hey, Peyton Thorne's going to go for 3 bills, you say, oh, man, we beat the brakes off Oklahoma. Because that's the top 10 defense in America. Again, Oklahoma finding a way. We hit on that. Did not feel like we were going to hit on that for the better part of the, 3.5 quarters there. But credit Brent Venables, credit that operation, gritty outfit. Deserve all the credit in the world, but I'm just saying you feel fortunate to get that win, as I think most folks in Norman do today. Missed on Colorado. What else is new? Colorado now, I'll just say this, they're trending upward. They are trending upward. Have some balance, have some other guys stepping up in that receiving core in addition to Travis Hunter. And it's not just Horn, you got Will Shepard. So we're seeing some things from Colorado now that we did not see a year ago. I'm not saying they're winning the Big 12, but I am saying our pick to have them make a bowl game, we feel better about that after the win over UCF. It was a 2-touchdown spread favoring UCF on the road for Colorado. Still, got it done. Big win for Coach Prime and the boys. Last one here, Miami. We said this going into the week. Hey, red alert. We circled it, put it in highlighter, red star, all that. That was a game. Freaky Friday night action. Vodtech coming to town, 2-loss Vodtech. You're saying, oh, they got 2 losses. They aren't really the team that we thought they were in the preseason. A couple of turnovers later, a Hail Mary that gets overturned later. You're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we got out of that one. We knew Miami would win that football game, or we predicted they would at least. We did not like that 18.5-point spread. Thought that was way too much given the spot, but even so, Miami staying undefeated, and they got a big one this weekend against Cal for College GameDay action. So let's get to the predictions. The reason y'all are all here, man, let's get to this here. Tennessee at Arkansas, Razorbacks Stadium, 7:30 Eastern, ABC. Fayetteville will be on fire for this one. Now, don't let that record fool you for Arkansas. 2 losses. Each of those is only by 1 score. Quite frankly, they should have beaten Oklahoma State. They had them on the ropes, let them off the hook. And then the Texas A&M game, had the football with a chance to go win it, strip sack game, blouses, that's how it goes. But if you're Arkansas, man, this is the chance to hit the reset on the entire season for you. You have a couple games that haven't gone your way, a couple of games that you feel like you really probably woulda, coulda, shoulda won. But with that being said now, who do you have coming to town? Top 5 Tennessee team. They're off a bye. Everyone's telling them how good they are. This is a burn the boats kind of situation for the Pitt Boston Company. This is the one where you empty the chamber, you go all in. I'm sure, again, the atmosphere will be electric and then some. Like, this is a chance now where you rewrite the narrative around your season, go get a big win at the crib, and we're all talking about Sam Pittman and Taylor Green a little bit differently than we are right now. And so for that exact reason, if I'm Tennessee, this is a different kind of test. We talked about it on the channel yesterday. Another reason to be subscribed. How do you handle success? If you want to go play for all the big-time trophies, you have to handle success accordingly. And this isn't so much commentary on Josh Heupel. It's not even commentary on Nico Iamaleava. It's just a commentary on this team in general. Because each year, the team resets, the culture resets. You have, that foundational piece there from the coaching staff, but every team has to hit the reset button, refocus. And what I said for Arkansas's perspective, like Tennessee, they've been hearing how good they are since that Oklahoma game ended. Wow, that's amazing. Win on the road, beat a great defense. That Josh Heupel coach team, gritty outfit, and they had a bye week this past week where there was a bunch of carnage across college football. Ole Miss goes down. A couple of other, pieces. The Georgia game happens. Tennessee now starting to climb up the rankings. So how do you handle everyone patting you on the back after you didn't play a game last week, after you had a majorly visible win over Oklahoma? Find out a lot about Tennessee and the culture for them heading into this game. Now, speaking of Tennessee, it's always going to be about the quarterback for Tennessee, right? That's always going to be a focal point of the conversation when you try to break down Tennessee and their perspective to win a football game. This game is fascinating to me in terms of the progress for Nico Iamaleava, because great quarterbacks, and we said this yesterday in our video as well, great quarterbacks are able to adjust their style to what's required in the game. What's required in this game for Nico Iamaleava? To me, looking at that Arkansas defense, who have they had success against? What have quarterbacks done that have gotten them in trouble? From what I can tell, gotten greedy. Thought that maybe a downfield passes there when they should have just tucked it and ran or checked it down, and that is what has gotten them into trouble. So for Nico Iamaleava now, again, had a whole week, the entire offseason, everyone's told you how good you are. You had a couple games now, you had success. Everyone's told you how good you are. Are you able to keep the main thing, play within the structure of the system, not get greedy downfield, because there's going to be a couple plays now that look like they're there, and they may very well be there for Nico Iamaleava and his arm talent. But this is a situation where Arkansas is averaging 2 takeaways a game. If you give them extra bullets, if you give Taylor Green more snaps, it's not going to bode well for you, especially on the road. Crowd gets into it even more than they already are. Things get a little bit dicey. I think for Tennessee, man, this really is like the Dylan Sampson game. I mean, he's averaging 6.5 yards a carry. I think he is the table setter. And I'm not against the potential of Arkansas's defensive line having a great game. I mean, I think they definitely have shown that they can be a force up front, but the reality is you watch that game against Texas A&M, they had a lot of success with Le'Veon Moss getting downhill. A lot of success with the misdirection and the zone run schemes, and that was really what I thought gave them the most trouble. I think that'll be the same kind of flavor for Tennessee, and that'll be the table setter for them. Because you watch Tennessee now, very rarely will you see them just snap the football and huck it 40 yards with the first play of the game or the first couple of plays of the game. They're one of those offenses now that starts to trend, get a rhythm, have a couple of minimal gains, have a couple of the intermediate pass plays hit, and then they'll start taking the shots. So Dylan Sampson, the table setter for allowing that offense to get the picture they want from the defense, and honestly, he may just be the one that you lean on the road and find a way to win. Could be a game where we see Tennessee score similar to the Oklahoma game. Maybe they're not scoring 40. Maybe it's high 20s, low 30s, and that's enough to win the football game. We'll see. Now, the spread's 13.5, so Vegas obviously likes Tennessee, but I'll tell you what, man, an Arkansas upset at home is linked directly to who they have playing quarterback in Taylor Green. And the way that I think about this is like Taylor Green and what he can be in this football game really only hurts you if you're Tennessee if you allow it to be infected, kind of like a cut. Like a cut in itself, a little paper cut, it's not going to be bad news, okay? You let it heal, move on with the rest of your life. But if that gets infected, it becomes something that could, be uncomfortable for a long period of time. Maybe it gives you some problems for a couple of weeks. It becomes uncomfortable. Like all these things now, it starts to compound on one another. And that's Taylor Green, man. If you allow him to get rolling, you allow him to have some success, whether it be in the read option game, whether it be in the ad-lib game, that's where more things start to open up. Because Jaquindon Jackson now, running back for Arkansas, he's a dude in his own right. A&M did a great job holding him in check as best they could last week, but he's a guy that's averaging 6.5 yards a carry. Like, if you allow it to be a situation where you're having to guess, is it Taylor Green, is it Jackson, and then some more things open up downfield, that's where this gets a little bit tricky. That's where things start to become an issue. The ad-lib game really could be the thing to watch here if you're Tennessee, because Taylor Green, when he's back there running around, yes, that's obviously annoying for your front seven, and they got to chase them, and that tires them out. But even more importantly, that puts strain on your secondary. We say it a lot on this show, man. You can cover somebody for 2 to 3 seconds. You can do that. Whether it be man coverage, zone coverage, you can hold your water for 2 to 3 seconds. But for 4 to 5 to 6 seconds, you're asking a lot. I don't care who you have on the back end. It's going to be a difficult task whenever that happens. In Arkansas now, quite frankly, they have been able to live off of plays like that. Go back and watch the A&M game. The most explosive play Arkansas had was in a scramble drill, 75-yard pass downfield, where Arkansas had a receiver just get loose. And it wasn't bad coverage. It was just too long of a period to have to cover Arkansas's receiving core. So Taylor Green, man, if you can neutralize him and neutralize the ad-lib game, you're going to be in good shape. I mean, he can have his 80 yards rushing. That's fine. But if it's the 80 yards rushing where he's able to go back and forth across the field and then goes up and wears your defense out, and then he's back and forth across the field again and throwing the ball downfield, and then you're wondering if it's 10 or if it's Jaquindon Jackson, you see how this thing could get out of hand, all right? So that's something to watch here. So in response to that, from Tennessee, going back to the test this is, we're checking a lot of things here when it comes to the traits of Tennessee. This is a major effort kind of test for Tennessee. And I don't say effort in the sense of, do they want it bad enough? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is anytime you play a dynamic dual-threat quarterback, it is a chore to have to consistently, one, stay disciplined in your assignment and not get out of your pass or your rush lane or your coverage, all those things. But at the exact same time, it takes a certain amount of intensity every single snap to be able to take the proper angle, to be able to swarm to the football. Because when you let down in those areas, that's when the big plays happen. That's when Arkansas gets life. That's when this game becomes a little bit interesting. So when it comes down to our pick in this game, I can't help but go back to what we've seen from Tennessee to this point in the year, maybe especially in that Tennessee game from the defense. Like Michael Hawkins Jr. is probably, the best sample size for you when it comes to playing against a mobile quarterback if you're a Tennessee fan trying to assess this game. They're a very versatile team, is Tennessee. This is not the 2022 outfit. And that's not to dunk on the 2022 team. Like that 2022 team, quite frankly, was just praying for stops. Offense was great, but you were praying for stops is the way that it felt. And this Tennessee team, man, this is the kind of team now where you can take them home to meet your parents, right? Previous Tennessee teams, the 2022 team, they were awesome. They were fun to watch. They were a great fling, but you're like, is this really going anywhere? Is this really a team that can win a national title that you can put a ring on? It wasn't, right? It was fun to watch. It was a great time. It was enjoyable. It was great to be around. But it wasn't one of those teams where you're like, hey, this could be the one. If I'm a Tennessee fan right now because of the defense and because of the generational talent you have at quarterback that we've talked about ad nauseum now, and the culture from this team that we've seen to be able to go on the road in Norman, win a low-scoring game, if you're a Tennessee fan, man, this could be the one. So for that reason, I think Tennessee's team speed is enough to neutralize Taylon Green. I think the opportunistic defense doesn't get a chance to really get the ball rolling too much because of the run game. I think Nico takes care of the football. I think we see his maturity in this game. I like Tennessee to win. Y'all, I'm going to take Tennessee to cover. Went back and forth on the cover part of this, but again, I think overall James Pierce and what they have up front in that front seven is enough to create some havoc of their own, create some turnovers of their own. And I think Tennessee wins the football game, and I think they cover. That's going to be a good one, though. In Fayetteville, too, I promise you, man, that's going to be one where that place will be on fire. Place will be rocking. Now, speaking of rocking, man, we've been rocking on this show for a minute here. We've been rocking for a minute here, and a lot of that is thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. We've also been rocking on our Prize Picks plays, all right? This past weekend, I put out a play. I said, hey, take Damian Martinez less than 60.5 rush yards against Virginia Tech. Go ahead and pair that with the Caleb Williams free square. We're off to the races. Damian Martinez, man, looking out for us. Ran for 60 yards flat against Va Tech. And obviously the Caleb Williams free square hit. So if you use code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds, like we're cooking right now. Feel free to fade or follow, but if you want to fade us, do so at your own risk. I'm telling you, a basket looking very, very wide for your boy over here, all right? So again, code HARDCOUNT, $5 in lineups. Even if we don't win, which would be an anomaly for the last couple of weeks, but even if we don't win, $50 in lineups, or $50 in promo funds, rather, coming your way. Quick note, I'll say this too. Y'all have been crushing it on using that code, so thank you. Because the folks at Prize Picks, they see that, they say, code HARDCOUNT is getting worn out. Like some dirty laundry. Yeah, that's y'all. Okay, so we appreciate y'all letting the folks over there know what's up and making us look good and continuing to use that code. Just a great way to support the show, so we appreciate you so much for that, man. Good stuff. Prize Picks is a good time, man. Good time for all. Let's move from the Big Orange to the Big Red. I guess we got two Big Reds here if you want to be specific about it. You got Rutgers going to Nebraska. Nebraska's a 6.5-point favorite at the crib, 4 Eastern, Fox Sports 1. If you're Nebraska now, you got back on track against Purdue. Good to see that. The Illinois game, it's hard to say that wasn't your best test of the season, but this will present a very similar test, I believe, that Illinois presented. Because I think at its core, this Greg Schiano football team of Rutgers, they want to be a lot of the same things that Nebraska wants to be. They're down to get in a fight with you. They'll throw some haymakers. They want to run the football, and we're going to see how much Nebraska is able to meet that physical test, especially defensively, with what Rutgers wants to do running the football at them. Now, this Rutgers team, like I alluded to, first team all grit now. Greg Schiano, what do you think? You think physical, you think line of scrimmage, you think run the ball, you think all those things. That's who this team has been. I think this is like flown way under the radar, but Rutgers is undefeated. Rutgers hadn't lost a game yet, okay? So I understand all the talk is around, Ohio State and Oregon, and like deservedly so, and Rutgers undefeated. So They'll play some more difficult competition here going forward and starts in this game. But Kyle Monangai, running back for Rutgers, one of the best kept secrets. I think the college football sickos know about him. I think Big Ten country knows about him. I don't think the national scene knows about him just yet. He's averaging 6 yards a carry. You watch him run the football, man. He runs how you would hope your son would run the football. And that sounds weird to say, but like that's how I felt watching him. Like this is a dude who runs behind his pads, always falls forward, is physical, runs his feet, is very seldom brought down by the first guy. Like he just runs with such heart and effort and all those things which are cliches. But again, I think you see it from Kyle Monangai. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's a guy that can give you problems if you don't bring 11 hats to the football. A lot of cliches there. That's how the Big Ten is, baby. It is college football at its purest, and this is kind of one of those games, if you ask me. So speaking of what I was saying about Kyle Monangai, man, both these teams want to set the tone running the football, especially Rutgers, man. 63% of the time, they are running the ball. Now, why do they run the football? You run to, one, make the other team say uncle. That's the first part. If Greg Schiano can run the football 85 times and you can't stop it, he'll do that, promise you. However, Rutgers has had some ability now to be able to have some of that play-action game working and be able to threaten downfield. Again, they're 63% run, but their yards per pass number is at 8.5 yards a pass. It's kind of like that Windhorse meme. Now, why is that? It's because they got to stack the box to try and stop Rutgers running the ball. When you overcommit to stopping the run, bad things happen for your defense because you have less resources on the back end. So for Nebraska, how honest can you play in that front seven to try and neutralize Monangai? Because if you can't, Calic Manis, he's going to hurt you. Transferring over to Rutgers, and he has fit in quite nicely into the Rutgers offense. Now, on the other side for Nebraska, we say this a lot, like this is who Matt Rhule wants to be. He wants to run the football. They've been a little bit more balanced as of late, and I think a lot of that is due to Dylan Raiola and just the arm that he has that is, just special, to be quite frank with you. But when it comes to what they want to do offensively, I do think it is still run the football, and then be able to stop the run. And they've done that at an elite level, has Nebraska, allowing 2.5 yards a carry. But both these defenses, man, allowing less than 20 points a game, for the most part, been pretty salty across the board. But here's the big stat that jumps out to me when you break down this game. Rutgers is allowing 6.7 yards a carry. Some cognitive dissonance going on there, all right? That is not the part of the operation here that reflects Greg Schiano. Everything else does, run the ball, be able to throw off the run. Defensively, they're solid. They're not great against the run, okay? So I think we break down games like this, and the question I've started to ask when it comes to games of this nature with a spread right around one score either direction is like, what's harder to believe in this situation? Is it harder to believe that Rutgers gets right stopping the run against this Nebraska team? Or is it harder to believe that Monangai gets bottled up by Nebraska and then Rutgers becomes a pass-only offense? Again, what I said, Nebraska is allowing 2.5 yards a carry. I have a tough time thinking that as balanced as Nebraska is offensively, Rutgers will be able to just stop the run and sell it to stop the run and then feel good about doing it. I think in the end here, the explosives from Dylan Raiola and their new gear they have offensively to push the ball downfield, I think Rutgers will do their best to stop the run. I think they will sell out from a resources perspective. But at the end of the day, when they do pull ahead from a points perspective, if you're Nebraska, I don't see a world where Rutgers has the extra juice to try and catch up to them offensively. So with that being said, we'll take Nebraska to win. I'm going to take Nebraska to cover as well. So we like the final here to be 31-21. Again, Raiola, the explosives, the difference. This is where you see the next evolution of this Nebraska football team show itself, to be able to lose a game a couple weeks ago against Illinois, rebound and beat a good Rutgers team, and hand them their first loss of the season. So that's 1-2. We learned a lot about Nebraska. How do you handle success? How do you handle defeat? They've already had their first loss on the season. A lot of folks were saying, they'll be 7-0 going into Ohio State. It's not the case. For the record, the Rutgers game was the one that we had circled to potentially be the Dylan Raiola freshman moment. I don't think that's the case anymore. All right, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think they win that game. Now let's get to this one now. Sickos Hour Special. For those of y'all that follow me on Twitter, you know Saturday night rolls around. The primetime game with Herb Street and Fowler ends. And a lot of the college football public, the general college football fans, they say, hey, that was a great day of college football. What a game, huh? That was awesome. Turn off the TV, brush their teeth, head to bed. And good for them. Nothing against that. However, those of us that I would put in the sickos committee, if you will, shout out to that Twitter page, they're hilarious. This is a sickos hour to the nth degree. You got Miami going to Cal, 10:30 Eastern, ESPN, College GameDay. Going to Cal Berkeley, that'll be fun. I'm curious to see what the turnout is for the folks out there in Northern California. If you're Cal, man, this is a chance to make a statement. I mean, as of right now, like Cal is rolling. I mean, they had their loss to Florida State, but overall, I think Cal's done a pretty decent job making a statement to the ACC. Like, all right, we're here. We're here. Now, if you really want to make a statement, you do so with College GameDay in town, with the top 10 team coming to you. This has Marshall Mathers kind of game written all over it, if you're Cal. This is the one now. You got your one chance, your one opportunity. Would you take advantage of it or let it slip away? All right, this is the lose yourself kind of game. For those of y'all that have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Big opportunity for Cal. Now, the spread in this game, it opened at 12.5, all right? It has since been plummeting. Right now, Miami is favored by 10.5 points. So that's how we're going to break this game down. The lower third says 12.5. It's down to 10.5, just so we're on the same page here. Now, if you're Miami, I think there's a lot of folks that are concerned about them after the Virginia Tech game. And, we're going to see how fair that concern is because we hated last week's spot. We talked a lot about Va-Tech, one of the better 2-loss teams in the country coming in, had lost 2 games by 3 points, Friday night action. Miami hadn't played anybody in a while. Like, there was a lot of things that made that a tough spot for Miami. There's a lot of things that make this a tough spot for Miami, too. Emotional game after the Friday night game against Va-Tech where you have a Hail Mary. You think you lost the game, called a touchdown on the field. You overturn it after a review. Like, there's a lot that goes into this now. Also, you got to go from one coast all the way to the other. Literally from South Florida to Northern California. Welcome to college football in 2024. Also, a very, very late kick. Shouts to our guy, Josh Pate. Miami played poorly and won last game. They cannot play poorly and win against Cal. I think Cal's defense is too good. I think they have too many weapons offensively. Very, very sneaky. We'll talk about Jade Knott here in a second. Miami cannot play poorly and win, especially not after what they showed last week. And Miami, if you want to lose this game, just do exactly what you did last week. Slow start, 3 turnovers, can't stop the run, allow 200 yards rushing, just kind of lackadaisically float through that first half. If you want to do that, you're going to lose this football game. It's going to be a very long flight back to South Florida, all right? This will be the best defense, I believe, that Miami has played against to this point in the year. They're allowing less than 300 total yards per game is Cal, 4.3 yards a play allowed. That's top 15 in America. So what I'm trying to say here is if you get down like you did against Virginia Tech, one, you're on the road, and we'll see what Cal's environment is like in this game. But I promise you, if there's a game, if you're Cal Berkeley, that you're getting up for, it's this one. So on the same page. This defense, I think, is too talented to be able to surge against and go score that many unanswered, is what I'm trying to get across here. Very, very tough to have the overdrive factor. Cal's defense, the secondary, is only allowing 170 yards per game. Top 25 in America. Now, this game could legitimately hinge, if you're Cal, on the legs of Jade Knott. Been dinged up a little bit this year, starting to get back healthy. He averaged 6 yards a touch in 2023, did the Cal Berkeley running back. And if he gets rolling, that's where the snowball effect could really kick in here. Because, again, Miami, they struggled against the run last week, allowed 200 yards. If Jade Knott gets rolling, guess what happens? Miami has to start rolling up, try to stack the box. Other plays open up downfield. And Cal, I don't know if they're world beaters offensively, but they got enough guys now to hurt you, again, if you leave them in man-to-man coverage. We've seen that. Ask Auburn about that one. Now, here's the question. Do we see the new Miami that we've talked about really since the Florida game? And the new Miami is good culture, disciplined, play to their standard, not the logo. And there was a bit of a letdown last week against Va-Tech. Now, letdowns can do 2 things, especially when you win. If you play poorly and win, 2 things can happen. The first is you feel relief. Okay, that was bad. We're okay. We're still who we think we are. Don't worry about it. Next game, that wasn't us. Friday night, you make excuses. You talk about why it made sense for you to play poorly, and then you move on, and then guess what happens? Usually you get beat, all right? Now, what also can happen when you play poorly and win, in good locker rooms, in good cultures, creates a fire underneath. It creates a sense of urgency. Whoa, hey, that you looked your mortality in the face, probably should have lost that football game in some respects, depending on what you think about that Hail Mary that was overturned. That creates some extra juice. Say, hey, we got to get back, right? Y'all, that's not us. We can't play that way. If we play that way again, we lose the football game, all right? Good. I mean, coaching staffs are always, I think, speaking to the right things, but it is a whole nother deal for a player-led organization to embody what the coaches are saying, if that makes sense. Now, if I'm Miami, I have two reasons for confidence going into this game. One, Cal is allowing a sack rate of 12%. That is some of the worst in the country. So again, if Jaden Ott gets rolling, that very much so limits the amount of times they have to drop back and deal with what they have up front. But again, sack rate of 12%, it's tough to get on board with. The other thing, and this is probably as impactful, maybe the most impactful for me when I'm talking about this game, I think Cam Ward is just wired differently. I do, and I think as poorly as he played in the first half, give that dude a lot of credit because he came back out and was swinging. We said it on our reaction video on Sunday morning. The psychopathic nature to be under duress and to throw a Dr. Pepper scholarship game kind of chest pass. For those of y'all that got that reference, great. If you didn't, don't worry about it. To have the confidence and just the borderline crazy mental state to throw that football that direction in that situation told me everything I need to know about how he's wired. And so I get he's super nonchalant. There's some things, if you're a Miami fan, that you say, I'd like to see him maybe, take better care of the football in that situation. Totally fair. But I think as much as he's wired competitively, that's going to permeate throughout this locker room. I think that will help them rebound from the game against Va Tech. I think Miami gets it done on the road. I think they win. I think they cover the 10.5. We'll see how this moves when it comes to game time. It could keep going down. We'll see if it shoots back up at all. I think Miami wins this game 31-20. So they cover the 10.5. If you got it at 12.5, I wouldn't feel as good about that. Again, the spot, the location, the nature of the travel and the kick, all those things, I think Miami does win the football game. I think they score 31 doing so, and I think you survive in advance if you're the Canes and find a way to right the ship after the poor showing against Virginia Tech. It's one of those weekends, too, where, again, the logos and the matchups, it doesn't have the same juices like a week one did, but still, learn a lot this Saturday about a lot of teams, and I cannot wait for that. Hey, appreciate everyone that's dialed in live. If you're watching right now, just make sure you've subscribed to the channel. You're already watching, you're already here. We appreciate you so much for that. Want you all the way dialed in. So that subscribe button under the picture, go ahead and click that. We appreciate you so much in advance for that. Now, something we're all going to appreciate this Saturday, noon Eastern, ABC, Kyle Field. This might be the game of the weekend to me. You got Missouri going to Texas A&M. Texas A&M currently 1.5-point favorite. Don't look now, but Texas A&M starting to stack them up. All right, and what an opportunity, too, because the last time that they got, national exposure was, I'll rephrase that. Last time they got to play a high-level top 10 nature team was Notre Dame in week one, also at the crib. That game went how it went, but ever since then, they've been rolling. If they're able to beat a top 10 team in Missouri, we're all revisiting A&M and saying, whoa, that's a team now that, I don't know if they're going to win the SEC, but could they find a way to potentially make the college football playoff? I'm not saying that would be my take. I'm saying those conversations start to have some validity to it in College Station. Now, if you're Missouri, this is the one you got to turn it on, baby. Got to turn it on because during SEC media days, everyone and their mama, the dark horse pick to win the SEC, they said Ole Miss, then they said Missouri. Dark horse team out of the SEC to make the college football playoff. Talked about the schedule and Brady Cook and Eli Drinkwitz. Missouri, this is the game where you got to show some sense of urgency because it's been a couple weeks in a row now where the Boston College game have to surge to find a way to win that game. The game against Vanderbilt have to find a way to surge in overtime to win that game. And I'm not speaking down on Boston College or Vanderbilt. I think both those teams are actually a lot better than we maybe assumed they were. But Missouri, y'all, should not be in an overtime spot with Vandy. As much as I love Diego Pavia, should not be the case. So for Missouri now, the benefit and the thing to watch, I think, is you got a logo to go chase. This is a very much so a logo that gets you up for it, all right? This is not going to be a logo where you're like, okay, can we generate our own juice? You got your juice here. You're going on the road. It's going to be an intense environment in Kyle Field. They got a deal out there where they stand the entire game. Do the students out there. So bottom line, if you wanted juice, you got it. If you wanted a logo to play for, you got it. So I got to address this first because this is something that we talked about a little bit on our Sunday reaction show. I put it out on Twitter as well, but I want to hear from y'all in the comment section as well. I don't know how you go away from Marcel Reed at quarterback if I'm Texas A&M. I don't. And I said during the reaction video, I was like, hey, he gives the offense a different look. It's more dynamic in nature. Is he perfect? Is he a finished product? No. Is he the most accurate quarterback you've ever seen? No. But he changes the way a defense has to play you. Le'Veon Moss getting rolling, I don't think it's coincidental that he's had the success he's had with Marcel Reed at quarterback. Now, obviously, you have a smaller sample size because of Conor Weigman's injury when it comes to elite competition. But I'm just saying now, Marcel Reed, to me, gives you the opportunity to attack a defense in more ways. So I'm making this pick here based on the assumption that Marcel Reed is your quarterback for A&M. I'll say this right now, if Marcel Reed does not start for Texas A&M, I do not think they win the football game. All right, so we'll leave that there. This personnel of the offense is, you got some receivers to work with, right? Noah Thomas is great, had 100 yards last week. Le'Veon Moss, though, is the dude who needs to see the bulk of the action here. Like, he is the one who sets the tone for your offense. And Marcel Reed and the design quarterback run game off of that is great. The read option off that is great. But the benefit of having Marcel Reed at quarterback, like I just spoke to, is the idea that your attention is divided if you're the defense on, okay, well, 10 could pull it and run. Okay, we have to give a half second extra to our run keys because we don't know who's going to have the football. You're not worried about that with Conor Weigman. You are with Marcel Reed, and that's why Le'Veon Moss is going to have success, I think, in this football game. Now, the tone here is going to be set by Missouri's defensive line for them. Like, they're allowing 3.3 yards a carry. And I'm very curious, going back to the quarterback read option game, how they tried to defend Marcel Reed in that situation. Because what we saw against Vanderbilt, whenever there was that mesh point, Missouri, I'm getting these teams mixed up. Missouri did a consistent job of crashing on the mesh. They consistently were going downhill trying to tackle the running back. So what that forced Diego Pavia to do is pull it and get around the end. Now, Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt is a dog running the football. If you're crashing with Diego Pavia running the football, I think you probably also crash with Marcel Reed as your quarterback, is what I'm trying to say here. So Marcel Reed and his legs, I think, will factor in a massive way. The key to this game for A&M is giving him answers, all right, whether it be the quick game, whether it be having a definitive green light when they do crash on that, like instilling confidence in him and giving him easy access throws, easy access plays to go to. That, to me, is a massive, massive deciding factor in A&M having success and winning this football game. Now, for Missouri, it's pretty straightforward for me, to be honest. Like, I know they want to run the football. I understand that. They do that effectively. But, like, this is the game now. Against this Texas A&M front seven, you get the ball to Luther Burden. All right? Like, I'm not talking about, oh, that's nice. He had 6 catches for 75 yards. This is the get him 11 catches. I don't care how it looks. I don't care what you got to do. You feed number 3 for a couple of reasons. The one I just said, Texas A&M front seven is good, brother. Like, that's going to be one of the best defensive lines you're going to see this season. Okay, just ask Arkansas about it. They wreak havoc. In a spot like that, you don't want to go into the teeth of the defense. You want to get it on the perimeter. You want to force A&M to try and defend the big play. Something, quite frankly, last couple of weeks, they haven't done at a high level. Arkansas got him for a 75-yarder. Bowling Green got him for a 65-yarder. So you think Luther Burden's watching that tape and feeling pretty good about his chances? I would have to believe so. So that's the first part of it. The other part of it is, in this spot now, you want your best player to have the largest amount of say as possible in this football game. All right? And it's pretty clear. Luther Burden is probably the best player in this football game on either side. You feed him, you allow him to get after it, and again, you try and minimize the Texas A&M impact on the defensive line. Get it on the perimeter, let 3 work, let 3 be special, and let's go from there. Now, when that happens, it could be a situation where you pass to run. All right, you get the defense rolling. Maybe it's the quick game, maybe it's the screens, maybe it's the vertical game, whatever it is. You run after you're able to pass. And so when that happens, if you can loosen up the box, that's where some more things may start cooking, no pun intended, for Missouri. And speaking of cooking, man, like that could kind of be the end-all, be-all in this game as well. Because I think these rosters are pretty evenly matched. Vegas thinks so as well with a 1.5-point spread on this deal. The ad-lib game from Brady Cook could be what makes the difference here. Like we talked about how much that defensive line is going to get after you. Like Nick Scorton, if you haven't watched that Arkansas tape, I would encourage you to go back and do so. He called game on the final drive for Arkansas. Strip sack against Taylor Green. That was it. Waved goodbye. Like it was sick. It was very, very sick. So if you're Brady Cook, being able to scramble away from those and not even make a big play downfield, like scramble away, live to see another down. Be able to get out of a situation where it's going to be 2nd and 15 and make it 2nd and whatever the down and distance was. Heck, 2nd and 10 if that's where you're at. That could end up being the difference here. Staying ahead of the sticks and trying to, again, minimize as best as possible what A&M's doing up front. So we say this now, too, when it comes to spreads like this, we ask the question, what is harder to believe? Missouri, again, they haven't been bad, but I don't think they found their rhythm and their stride just yet. If you're saying, why do I feel that way? I'll point to the Boston College game. I'll point to the Vanderbilt game. Missouri's good. They're missing Cody Schrader, I believe. I believe they're missing Blake Baker on defense. Haven't found themselves just yet. That's okay. We're entering into October, but is it harder to believe they find their stride on the road against a Texas A&M team now that I think is developing some momentum and some belief? Or is it harder to believe that this Texas A&M offense against that Missouri defensive front is able to generate some production on their own as well? Again, Missouri only allowing 3.3 yards a carry. Blake Baker's gone, but they still have some good personnel from last season that's on that squad right now. To me, I think, again, if Marcel Reed is your quarterback, I think Le'Veon Moss has success. I think there will be ad-lib plays there for Marcel Reed as well. I think Noah Thomas is a matchup issue. I think that I'm going to take the, in my opinion now, better defensive line with A&M and Nick Scorton. I think it's close. I think you get all your money's worth in this one. I think you get the whole seat, only need the edge. Give me Texas A&M, final score 23-20. With this being in Kyle Field, I think that factors in a big way. We'll take the Aggies to get it done on the road. Again, this is my assumption. They're rolling with Marcel Reed. If that's not the case, then we'll have a different discussion, and maybe we'll talk about it if we get a better gauge for it during the week. We'll take A&M to win, A&M to cover. It's going to be a good one now. Again, that to me might be the game of the weekend. I get it's a noon kick. I get it's, maybe not the College GameDay destination, but still, that to me I think is the most fascinating game of the weekend. Now, another big game we got this weekend is Auburn at Georgia. I want to make sure y'all know, though, hey, y'all know Whataburger? Of course you do. You know Whataburger. I mean, they're doing the Lord's work when it comes to providing just tremendous, whether it be honey butter chicken biscuit, whether it be a cheese, whatever you're getting into, Whataburger is your place. They go together perfectly with college football, in my opinion. Whataburger is going to have a food truck here, partnering with On3 to have a food truck at the game in Athens, Georgia. So go ahead, October 5th, roll on over there. Be serving hot and fresh Whataburger for you and your crew. Make sure you make that detour on your way into the stadium. Remember, your local Whataburger, always ready to feed the team, made to order 100% fresh food, served hot 24/7. That's the easiest win you'll get all season. Again, Whataburger, I'll say this, I was in Texas for the better part of the last, 2-3 years. It's good in any occasion. Before the game, Whataburger. After a high school football game, whatever you're doing, Whataburger is the way to go. So go ahead and check out that food truck this weekend in Athens. Now, speaking of what's going on in Athens, man, Auburn going to Georgia. Georgia's a 24.5-point favorite, 3:30 Eastern, ABC. It's ABC. Not to knock ABC. This is one of those games where 3:30 Eastern kick. You count on the SEC jingle. We don't get that. Nonetheless, we move forward. If you're Georgia, man, you got to reset. You have to reset because I know it's the Auburn logo and Auburn's limping into this game, but the SEC is a lot like the Amazon. Just when you think you're safe and you can take a chance to rest and kind of lick your wounds a little bit, that's when you get bit by something venomous and you die. All right, now for Georgia, maybe it's not quite that morbid, but I do think that's kind of a situation here because Auburn, they're desperate. They're desperate. And I'm not saying they're spiraling, but I am saying they're desperate. When you're desperate, you're dangerous. And Auburn, quite frankly, played well enough against Oklahoma to win that football game. Now, they didn't, so I guess you say, well, they didn't play well enough for that one play, and that's true. The pick six was what got them. But there's plays out there. And nobody wants to say this, but like Peyton Thorne is your guy going forward. Peyton Thorne played more than well enough to win that football game outside of that one play. He threw for over 300 yards in that game. If he goes for over 300 against Georgia, that would be a feat. Don't get it twisted, but that would obviously be, I think, more than enough to allow Auburn to cover that spread and make this thing very interesting in the fourth quarter like it was last year. Now, Auburn's path to an upset, with it being 24.5 points, that's probably what we should talk about the most here. How would Auburn find a way to get it done? Well, I think you probably look at what Alabama did, and you look at what you did a season ago and just say, okay, that's the blueprint right there. And having a blueprint and executing a blueprint are two different things. But to me, it is the perimeter run game with the quarterback, a little bit of sauce on there. Now, what is the sauce? It could be misdirection. It could be pre-snap movement. It could be a shift, whatever it looks like. I need the Hugh Freeze special in this game to open this up. But Peyton Thorne last year, man, averaged 7.7 yards a carry, 92 yards on the ground. Now, he threw for less than 100, and that was kind of the end-all, be-all, I suppose, at the end there. But, like, don't tell me there's not a path here. Because Jalen Milroe had a ton of success on the perimeter last week against Georgia as well. Now, Jalen Milroe, Peyton Thorne, two different caliber of athletes, but both can hurt you on the ground, just so we're on the same page. If you're Auburn, speaking to that Hugh Freeze special, you need to find a way to get Georgia misaligned. Because I think the Auburn roster, they're still building the overall like talent floor, if you will. They're playing a lot of young bucks. Hugh Freeze spoke to that a lot. They're still trying to get the caliber of player they need across the board to be able to beat the Georgias consistently and compete with the Alabamas consistently. But, like, you don't have them right now. If you got to play mano-a-mano with Georgia, you're going to lose the football game. So just like we saw last season, can you get that second level of the defense rocking and rolling, get them out of position? If you can, I think there's enough talent here for Auburn to score some points. Now, will that happen? Remains to be seen, but the Hugh Freeze special has got to be on deck. And right in line with the Hugh Freeze special, like what we said about Luther Burden in the Missouri A&M game is the same way we feel about Jarquez Hunter, the running back for Auburn, in the Georgia game. Like, he's your best player. In situations like this, sometimes it is that simple. You give 27 the football, you give it to him 20 times, and you allow him to impact the game to the most intense degree possible. That is the deal here. That's the deal. And I think when he has success, that sets everything else up. You want to throw the football? Get those safeties rolling down. You want to be able to get the perimeter run game going with the quarterback? Have those ends crashing. All these things, to me, starts with Jarquez Hunter being able to set the table offensively. Now, if your pushback on that is, hey, JD, use him as a decoy, great. But at some point in time, 27 has got to make a play for you. And that's not me putting it on Jarquez Hunter. That's me telling you, like, as a staff, scheme it for Jarquez Hunter. That has to happen. And I don't know as much about Hugh Freeze's roster as he does. I'm not telling you I do. But I do think there has to be a situation here where he allows the highest probability for special plays. And I think that's ultimately what it takes to beat Georgia. Like you saw that from Alabama. At the end of the day, it took matchup playmakers winning their play, winning their matchup. Ryan Williams made, to this point in the college football season, the play of the year with that contested catch all the way to the end zone. I'm not saying you need Jarquez Hunter to do something like that, but it might take something in that vein if you want to beat Georgia. Now, if I'm Georgia, let's talk about you for a second. You're the better roster. You're the better football team. I need to see a fast start. I need to see that bully mentality back because Georgia, this is shocking. They are 120th in the country when it comes to rushes per game. They are 96th in the country when it comes to rush yards per game. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a thing where Georgia can't run the football. To me, it's a matter of like committing to the run. And I don't mean to play offensive coordinator too much here, but like when we think Georgia, we think bully, we think physical, we think move the line of scrimmage, we think big human beings. And you got arguably the best quarterback in college football, so I get it. You want to let him spin, but if you want to beat Auburn, let's get back to the basics here. Let's keep it simple. Let's not put too much on our quarterback and our perimeter skill players. Like, let's just get back to being the bully on the block and run the dang ball. And let's allow that to be the catalyst here. Let's make it an attitude thing. Because there's a couple of games now from Clemson to Kentucky to Alabama where the running game has not been what I believe it was advertised to be. And I understand, too, offensive line is dinged up. You don't want to shortchange the impact of that, but like I want to see Georgia impose their will, especially in a spot here against Auburn where you're at home, you're a 3-touchdown and some change favorite. Like, let's be on a mission here if we're Georgia. Let's be dialed in. I think Georgia does wake up in this football game. I think Auburn, having the success they had last year, I'm curious to see if they're able to recreate that kind of juice offensively. If they do recreate that juice, have to be able to have, I think, another round of bullets in the chamber if you're Hugh Freeze, because Georgia will adjust like they did against Alabama. Ultimately, I think Georgia wins the game. 24.5 is a lot, especially with the spot that Auburn's in right now, with them being in that kind of desperation mode. Not in like a desperation or you lose the football team mode. I'm just saying desperation mode given the last couple of games. I think they're close. I think that they end up, again, covering that 24.5 number, but I'll take Georgia. Final score, Dogs 34. Auburn 20. It kills me we get no SEC jingle from CBS, but still, we're going to soak it in no matter what because it's the greatest sport on the face of planet Earth. All right, so I appreciate y'all being dialed in here. I'm going to check the live chat in just a second, but while I wait for those thoughts and questions, concerns to dial in there, I'm going to give you a quick ad read, all right? So live chat, ad read, we'll do that here in just a second. All right, so the hard count brought to you by our friends over at Roback, and y'all that tune into the show. I've talked about it many times. Roback, they've been with us since we were doing this show in a lobby in Waco, Texas, all right? They are for college football fans. They are by college football fans. Some of the best product on the market. You need a polo to last you all the hot game day. They got you. Need a hoodie to last you all of what's going to be crispy season now when it comes to your tailgate festivities. They got you. Q-Zip, they got you. Also some everyday shorts. Perfect for pairing that as well. They've also signed partnerships with college stars Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Caleb Downs, among others. They're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes. So use code JD on Roback.com for a generous 20% off all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, hoodies, and more with code JD. No periods, those two letters, JD. We appreciate you for that. I see someone, OG Gary, Georgia 80, Auburn 20. Hey, that would be, the over hits there. I'll just say that right now. The over would hit if that ends up being the case there. Let's see what else we got in here. Carson Beck isn't even top 5. That's brute. Not even top 5? I think Carson Beck's better than a top 5. Give him top 5. Golly, who else is ahead of him? You got Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, not in this order, Quinn Ewers. I'd put Jalen Milroe in the top 5. I think he's earned that. I think Carson Beck's top 5. That's a little bit harsh here. Auburn at 13 points, what my man says here. All right, anything else here we got in the live chat to take a look at? All right. Appreciate y'all being dialed in, man. Hugh Freeze officially on the hot seat after Saturday. We'll end on this one. I would have a hard time getting behind that. I understand now it hasn't been the start you wanted. This was the year that's supposed to, set the trajectory and the trend. If you want to fire Hugh Freeze, that's your prerogative, that's your thought. But I think you also have to understand you hit the reset on the roster, hit the reset on this recruiting class they're working on. I would give it a little more time. I'd be a little more patient with it. I think Hugh Freeze and what he inherited, this was not a quick fix. And if they can get the quarterback position rolling, changes the game. Changes the game. Again, woulda, shoulda, coulda. I don't want to give you too many ifs, ands, or buts, but there's a lot of variables there that I think could have changed Auburn's season. And if you want to move on from him after 2 years, to me, that's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. All right. Clemson pick. Anything else in here? We have some more predictions for you the rest of the week. So another reason to be subscribed is stay tuned. Milroe for Heisman. I like it. Like, and he's second right now on my ballot, second behind Travis Hunter. Also, I'll say this too, because this is the part of the show where a lot of the sickos are all the way dialed in right now. A lot of you that watch the show to the very end are dialed in right now. I got not into it, but we agitated the Boise State faithful because we had our top 3 for the Heisman after week 5. We had Travis Hunter at 1. We had Jalen Milroe at 2. We had Cam Ward at 3. I had Ashton Jeanty at 4. He didn't make the top 3 graphic, but I mean, Boise State Twitter came at me in full force. Shout out to y'all for the passion. If Ashton Jeanty keeps balling, he'll be in New York, and we'll leave it at that. But I'm not down on Ashton Jeanty, all right? I mean, I think he's a dude. We're just understand now, is a G5 running back going to take a little bit more for me? Not only are you G5, but you're a running back. It might take a little bit extra to be able to crack that top 3 for yours truly. So we'll leave it at that. Hey, appreciate y'all being dialed in, man. Appreciate y'all being subscribed. It's a wonderful time of the year. Cherish it. Embrace it. Soak it in. It is, again, pumpkin spice season. No shame in ordering more than one a day. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. For Nick Brake on the 1s and 2s, on his birthday, no less. On his birthday, just showing up and showing out. For myself, JD Piquel, we love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all